Well, if you've never heard the name Brett Kavanaugh before, you've heard it now, and you're going to be hearing it over the next couple of months. He is the Supreme Court nominee by President Trump. Brett Kavanaugh is a judge on the D.C. U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. Ed Vitagliano and Abraham Hamilton III. Abe, one of the things that we've been cautious about with the Kavanaugh nomination is Tim Wildman, our president. He references the trust me nominations of past presidents, Sandra Day O'Connor and David Souter and Anthony Kennedy. What does that mean, that kind of a trust me nomination, and how have conservatives, especially pro-life conservatives, been burned?
Yeah, every person you just named were judges who were nominated and later confirmed to the Supreme Court, who were put there by Republican presidents. All of them have served as judges in a not so constitutionalist manner. And so when we see Democrats appointing justices to the high court, they bat 1,000. They always get secular progressives on the bench who view the Constitution as a living, breathing document. Republicans have not been so successful. And so Republicans and conservatives have been burned in the past with the trust me nominee who didn't have a clear judicial philosophy articulated, no history of where they stand on constitutionalist, originalist interpretation. And as a result, we've gotten Republican appointees who have kind of who've mangled the Constitution.
All right, let's talk about judicial philosophy. We want to be fair to Brett Kavanaugh in this Reason & Company, but judicial philosophy is very important. You were concerned by some comments that Kavanaugh made Monday night when he was announced as President Trump's nominee. One of the statements he made you thought might be problematic.
Yeah, when he described his own judicial philosophy, in his own words, he said that he sees the judge's role as interpreting the Constitution as written in light of history and precedent. Had he just stopped as interpreting the Constitution as written, I wouldn't have had any concerns. But when you add the additional considerations of in light of history or according to history and precedent, it makes me wonder, is this person truly a constitutionalist, or is this going to end up as one of these trust me picks? If you're a constitutionalist, the thing that governs your judicial function is what the Constitution says. Precedent is something that's important, but it is not inviolate, as we've seen some pretty terrible precedents in American history, like Plessy versus Ferguson, Dred Scott. I think Roe is terrible precedent. In history, when we've had bad precedent, good judges have overturned them. Just last week or a week or two ago, we have several precedents overturned in the labor unions case, as well as the Korematsu internment of Japanese American citizens was overturned just a couple weeks ago. So it concerned me, those words concerning his judicial philosophy.
Well, now you did mention Roe versus Wade, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what we know and don't know about Brett Kavanaugh with regards to abortion.
Yeah, so in his confirmation hearing in 2006, when he was put up for the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, he mentioned that as an appellate court judge, that he saw Roe versus Wade as binding precedent that he would follow fully and faithfully. Now, to be fair, that's kind of what you hear pretty frequently from nominees to the appellate court. But the adding concern for me is something that Judge Kavanaugh wrote as a Court of Appeals judge in the Garza case, in referring to abortion in a case where an illegal immigrant minor came here and wanted an abortion. In an opinion, though he concluded properly in the ultimate decision of the case and dissented, he used some problematic language saying that it was assumed that this minor had a right to an abortion. That gave me a question. Where do you really stand? And is this something that you truly believe, or is this something you feel like you had to do as an appellate court judge?
All right. Now, we don't run out of time here, so let's try to get to the issue of religious liberty, because abortion and religious liberty, very important to evangelicals. What have you heard so far?
Critically important. In a case called Priest for Life, Judge Kavanaugh articulated that he believed that the government had a compelling interest in forcing a Catholic organization to provide abortifacient and contraceptives coverage. I found that very troubling. Although he concluded ultimately in the right direction in Priest for Life's favor, him using that reasoning was problematic for me. Does he really believe that there's a compelling government interest? There were other judges on that same panel who were even more conservative than him on the issue. So again, the issue for me was, is he the most conservative constitutionalist judge for this position, or is this one of those trust me picks when we had somebody else like Judge Barrett who was available where we may not have had these same questions?
Well, we do want to be fair to Judge Kavanaugh, and we do understand that as a lower court judge, sometimes those judges are bound by, well, a lot of times they're bound by Supreme Court decisions. The question is he bound as a lower court judge, or does he really believe that Roe versus Wade, for example, is binding? We're going to have to wait and see. American Family Association has decided to neither favor nor oppose Judge Kavanaugh's nomination at this point. We're taking a wait and see kind of perspective. We look forward to the confirmation process. Hopefully our questions and our concerns will be answered appropriately at that time. In any case, there'll be more coming in the months ahead on the Kavanaugh nomination, and we appreciate you checking in with us here on Reason and Company.